This is today's 830 WCCO. Welcome to the Jack Rice Show. We think back to the time after 9/11, and the fear was palpable. I remember everybody wondering when the next attack would come. And then we went into Afghanistan. And then we started seeing the buildup to Iraq until finally we had the Iraq War resolution. Looking at that resolution on October 10th, 2002, the House passed it 296 to 133 with a majority of the Democrats voting against it. And then the next day, the U.S. Senate looked at it. They voted for it too, 77 to 23, with a majority of the Democrats voting for it, just as the Republicans did. And then a few days later, President Bush, on October 16th, signed it into law. But sometimes, for some of them, I wonder what they were thinking about. I doubt they were thinking about a young man named Thomas Young, because not that long after that, he was in Iraq for 5 days. Well, that's what this documentary is about. Body of War. The co-director and executive producer, no doubt somebody you know, Phil Donahue, put this together with also another. He joins me now. Phil, thank you very much for the time.
Pleasure, Jack. Thanks for the invite.
I watched this sitting on my couch, and I watched it after I put the kids to bed. My wife went to bed, and I sat there absolutely transfixed because this is not a big picture type of documentary in my mind. This is very small, very intimate, much different.
We think so too, Jack, and we're hopeful that that will be the thing that will help us cut through what has not been a good history for Iraq docs. I mean, Iraq documentaries are playing to empty seats. So what we have is a very good luck of landmark theaters agreeing to show our film. And it's this connection that has allowed us to be out there, because we could not find a distributor. So, and we were so well received at, in festivals, and we've been well reviewed by all the major metropolitan papers. But it's hard to, sell tickets. This is not a take your girl to the movie.
So how do you overcome that? I mean, this is something in the media we have struggled with for years, where we are saying, look, this is incredibly important, but guess what? It doesn't have fart jokes.
Really. Saul Hurok is the great impresario. He is reportedly said, if they won't come, you can't make them. And that's certainly true now. First of all, people are losing their homes. They can't afford fuel. The dollar is sinking. College graduates can't find a good job. We can't blame Americans for not putting Iraq at the top of their list of things to worry about, but it is a tragedy that it is not there anymore. I mean, imagine you're over there in Iraq and the bullets are flying and the bombs are going off, and you read that the people at home have all but forgotten about you.
So how do you overcome that then? I mean, obviously, there's always a balance here. Again, what I've noticed in the documentaries that I've seen in the past is that the look at the war is the war. This is not that. And as I said earlier, this is just about the transformation, for lack of a better word, of this young man when he's in Iraq for these 5 days, but then what happens to him when he gets home. And it's something I just haven't seen before.
Well, my inspiration for this film was the naked child running from the napalm. Do you remember that picture from Vietnam?
Absolutely.
Stark naked. The kid couldn't have been 5 years old, running, screaming. You could see the black smoke behind her. This photograph won a Pulitzer Prize. See the pain. Don't sanitize the war. What you see in our film is a drama that's taking place behind the doors of thousands of homes in this country. Homes occupied by people who've come home from this war with hideous injuries. We have blind kids. Imagine, 20-something years old, blind. The subject of our film can't walk. He will never walk again. He's 28 years old. I mean, the closer you get to this, he has bowel and bladder problems. He has erectile dysfunction. Prime of life, 20-something. People are not seeing this sacrifice. Less than 5% of us have sacrificed for this war. Now, Americans know there are casualties, and they know there are people coming home in pine boxes. but I don't think they feel it because they don't see it. And my whole point with this movie was to sort of fill this black hole with information that I think the American people should have. If you're going to send a nation to war, I think you have a responsibility to show the rest of the country, the people who are being protected by these young men and women in battle, show them the sacrifice that they're making. And this film attempts to do that.
I also find it strange and disturbing that we continue to talk about these young men and women as heroes, and it rolls off the tongue so effortlessly at this point, and yet we hear about what's going on in various places where they're not receiving the support that you would expect, that we would demand, at least you would assume we would demand, just like this kid.
The pretense, the hypocrisy has been, Americans apparently have come to feel that if they say it, it's true, We talk about the brave troops, the courageous troops, the heroic troops. Oh, the troops. The troops come home and the VA doesn't call them back. We're bragging about democracy. Less than half of us vote. And the people who have beat the biggest drum for this war are people who wouldn't think of sending their own kids to fight it. I wonder if we shouldn't have a draft. Let's find out if you really support the troops. Support a draft that, by the way, will draft the rich. If your father could afford the lawyer, you didn't have to go to Vietnam. We won't do that anymore. We have to commit to this. That's the number one pretense of all. The wealthy kids don't have to go. This is horrible. It's the worst. It's shameless. So, hey, we're already tapped out. We've had many four-star generals tell us this. I don't know what we're going to do if we have another war. The Army, the Navy, everybody is exhausted. So let's help the troops. Let's fight. Let's get some more troops for them. Let's draft people now, and let's find out how many people support the troops.
Phil Donahue is my guest, the co-director, the executive producer of Body of War. By the way, that plays right here in town. I'll give you information on that later in the program. Again, Body of War. When we come back, Phil, let's talk more about that. I just saw President Bush speaking about this within the last couple of days, talking about why he went to war and why everybody agreed with him. But that wasn't exactly true, because there is a sort of a star of this besides Thomas Young, which, again, was another surprise for me, too, and that was Senator Robert Byrd. We'll talk about that when we come up next with Phil Donahue here on The Jack Rice Show. This is today's 830 WCCO.